Tomoko's summer comes to a surprisingly heartwarming end in my review of Watamote Episode 9. You might want to grab your tissues for the ending of this week's episode. It was surprisingly heartwarming, and not in that cheesy sitcom-y way. It didn't feel forced, and it felt natural. And this entire episode was, of course, like the other ones, it was extremely awkward, and you just feel bad for Tomoko the whole time. But the way they wrapped things up in this one felt really nice. We're still suffering with Tomoko as she's going through the last days of her summer break, and she actually does have some pretty big plans. She's going to be hanging out with her friend Yu, and they're going to be going to a movie. Unfortunately, Yu has to cancel at the last minutes because she's going to be working at one of those maid cafes, and she invites Tomoko to come visit her. Most of the laughs definitely happen in this part of the episode when you get to see Tomoko go to the cafe and hang out with Yu. And of course, Yu is absolutely perfect in every way. She's almost too perfect. You get your 1-2 punch here when Tomoko decides that if she wants to be something like Yu, she needs to work a job just like her. She needs to be in a trendy cafe, serving people, being sociable. So she decides she wants to work in the cake business. However, what she doesn't realize is that she's actually going to be a factory worker. And the transition to this scene is really, really funny. I love how she begs her mom to ask one of her friends to let her work for her. And what she didn't realize, this isn't like your little hole-in-the-wall cake shop. This is a big industrial factory, and she has to wear this, smock, and she has to wear all of this, gear, and you can't even really see who she is, but you can definitely tell it's Tomoko from her eyes, and she is severely disappointed by this, and even quits on the very first day. You start to really feel bad for Tomoko, though, in the next scene, where she has a little bit of a confrontation with her mother. Now that Tomoko doesn't actually have a job anymore, she's just sort of laying around the house doing what she usually does. Her mother suggests that maybe she help her with the chores, and of course Tomoko doesn't want to do this. This results in her mother getting furiously angry and basically comparing her constantly to her brother. The scene has a purpose, though. It's not just to make you feel bad. What I love about it is basically she's forced to go in this room and clean up a lot of her old stuff, and we get this huge nostalgia trip, and we get a little flashback that involves her and her brother when they were a little bit younger, and you get to see how the relationship used to be. And I love how it capped off the flashback when she finds this box, she opens it up, and she freaks out because there's a bunch of cicada shells inside. And then she gets the flashback to when her and her brother were younger, and they were catching the cicadas and taking the shells and collecting them. And this scene is really, really nice, and it gets even more heartwarming when she finds one of his old diaries. Tomoki's basically talking about Tomoko being the greatest sister ever. She always plays with him. Just a great sister in general. Things get a little bittersweet when she decides she wants to confront her brother, but he's no longer there at the house. He went to some meteor shower, so she decides to go out and see this as well, but she doesn't have anybody to see it with. And this is where the scene looks like it's just going to get really, really depressing. It looks like she's just going to start crying and everything, and things just aren't going to work out. But Tomoko is so incredibly optimistic about everything, and that's what's really so intriguing about her. She's really, really nervous about the coming school year. She doesn't know she's still going to be able to even talk to anyone, but she's still keeping the faith alive. And what I love most about it is when the meteor shower actually starts, she just wishes she could have someone to watch it with, just a boy. And then suddenly this cat just shows up right next to her, and she decides to feed it a little bit. And in probably the most heartwarming part of the series, the cat warms up to Tomoko immediately, rubs against her leg, and they're able to have a nice moment together. And it's funny when she lifts him up, she realizes that it actually is a boy. And I don't know, that scene just really tugged at me. And then it gets even more cheesier and corny at the very end. You get to see the final scene is her brother getting home, and he walks into his room, and on his desk is sitting a cicada shell. You just can't help but go, aww. Truly another episode that had a really great balance between the incredibly awkward, the sad and depressing, and the incredibly uplifting and heartwarming. And I think that's, again, what makes this series so intriguing in the first place. What I loved most about this episode was getting to see Tomoko finally start to appreciate some things about her brother, because she really never has many great things to say about him, and the fact is, Tomoko's incredibly cynical about pretty much everything. She was even commenting while watching the news that everyone on TV is just a corporate slave. And it's funny because Tomoko's not even really that likable of a character, but you want to see her change and evolve and become a much better person because of it, because she's living in this really weird fantasy world. Hell, there's even this one sequence where she imagines having a dude lick chocolate all off of her body. Need I remind you, in Japan, this is a late-night program. So Tomoko wasn't just the star this week. I think her mother really showed off, and I like the fact that her character is starting to evolve a little bit as the series goes on, because we need another counterbalance to Tomoko's weirdness. And all the scenes that involved Yu-chan were absolutely hilarious. Of course, they played up the fact that she's just completely bombastic and perfect in every way. But it's that ending sequence, the part with the cat, the meteor shower, and that final scene with Tomoko walking to his room. I think it's really, really effective, and like I said, it didn't come across as too sitcom-y. It felt very natural, and I really enjoyed that, and it made me feel very happy. So another fantastic episode of Watamote, another episode that will affect you on many different emotional levels. So I strongly suggest if you are following the series, make sure and check it out. And if you guys did check out this week's episode of Watamote, I'd love to know what you thought about it. You can maybe tell me about your favorite moments in the comments below. And remember guys, before you leave, give the video a thumbs up. Absolutely one of the best ways to support these videos. And make sure before you leave to check out some of the videos we got up top. I will see you next time guys. Super Kami Guru 9000. Out.